welcome along to talkSPORT Rugby for a very special episode here at the O2 for the British and Irish Lions squad announcement. Over the next 45 minutes, we'll reveal to you the headlines from today's live show in front of a packed audience and react to the biggest talking points that Andy Farrell and the selection team have made ahead of that massive tour to Australia this summer. I'm Alfie Reynolds. Joining me is talkSPORT's rugby commentator Andrew McKenna. Macca, how are you?
I'm really well, thank you, Alfie.
Good, good. I don't think I know many people that love the Lions more than you. How have you enjoyed your day? You've absolutely loved it, haven't you?
To be honest, if we'd done it on December the 25th, I couldn't have felt much happier than this. So, yeah, it's been absolutely fascinating and great to be around this quite unique way of announcing things and doing things.
Yeah, we'll get on to that. Also joining Macca and myself is the former England winger Topsy Ojo. Topsy, lovely to see you. You enjoyed the day, as Macca says, all a little bit different.
Yeah, a bit different, but it's been great. You know, we didn't have this for the last tour, so actually be able to have all this energy, all this vibrancy going on, to have the squad announced, to see it in person. Yeah, it's been a great afternoon.
To not have Maro Itoje as some hologram as the announcement was happening somewhere else. We never want to go back to those days. I think we're all with it.
Not.
Let's start with the captain, though. Maro Itoje has become the 47th Lions captain. He'll lead the team down under, the first Englishman to do it since 2001. I think of all the things that we came here today and the questions and possible surprises, this was the least surprising, Macca.
Yeah, absolutely. It was completely nailed on once Caelan Doris's shoulder went bust last weekend. And also, I think we always knew it was going to be a forward, because the other thing was, last 10 tours, 2 backs as captains. So Gavin Hastings and Brian O'Driscoll. So there's something about forwards. There's something about big forwards. Do you remember when asked why Martin Johnson got the gig in 1997, Sir Ian McGeechan said, because I wanted the South African captain to have to look upwards. Maybe there's part of that in Maro Itoje as well, but he's a hugely confident, charismatic human being. I think he'll do a great job leading the squad. And just the way that he was announced today, he had to walk through the audience in full kit, carrying a lion. There were a few people that might have felt a little bit embarrassed doing that. He was fully 6'7", chest out. This is me.
Yeah, I don't know if there are many rugby players that would be better suited to having to do it in that sort of spotlight. Topsy, it's a fascinating one for Itoje. He's now on his 3rd Lions tour. We know how good he is as a player. We've seen that for a decade plus. But he only recently became the England captain. So in terms of the captaincy at this level, it's all happened pretty quick for him.
Yeah, it has, but it's, you know, if you speak to him about it, he'll say it's all come at the right time. You know, there's been lots of talk since Maro first burst onto the scene, from when he captained England at junior level to a World Cup. There was always the talk of Maro's going to become a leader at some point, and then you have Eddie Jones saying, not quite sure, think he's a bit too inward looking. But if you look at the way this season has played out, he was named captain of his club, then named captain of his country. So, and the progression towards the Lions has always been like, right, this is his time. But he's earned it, primarily from his performances on the pitch. I think he's got back to form that he showed a few years ago. He's had a couple of health issues, which he's spoken about as well. But his form warrants the place. His leadership absolutely warrants the place. And so today is kind of that crowning moment. So being named is step one, but now you've got to get out there. You've got to do the job. But Macca touched on it. You know, he's quietly spoken. He will choose his words wisely. He'll lean on the leadership of others around him, of which there'll be plenty. He's experienced on Lions tour. So it's just another step in what's been a brilliant year for Maro so far, and can't wait to see him out there.
One other thing, Alfie, to be captain of the Lions is slightly different to be captain of your club side. Think back to 2003 in the England squad. Martin Johnson was the captain, but I think 10 of the 15 that started the World Cup final had captained their club sides. So you're talking about elite groups. Well, we're talking about a really elite group here. So people who've captained their international sides, been on the senior leadership group. This isn't a group of callow youths. This is the cream of British and Irish rugby. So actually the captaincy requirements are slightly different to being captain of Saracens for Maro. So as you're just saying, he's got a leadership group. He can lean on people should he need to. And he doesn't have to be the one always front and centre, because it will be, insert name of other player here, they will have their day where they get to have their say.
Yeah, I think Maro is an excellent choice as captain. I mean, you look back to 2017 when he was the youngest player in the squad, but the chorus of "Oh Maro Itoje" out in New Zealand, Macca, you'd have been there for that. I think you put Maro Itoje as a captain of a Lions team in a Test series, you get the very best out of him. I think it's absolutely exceptional. Let's run through some of the headlines from the forwards and the backs, and we'll be hearing from Andy Farrell and Maro Itoje when they spoke to talkSPORT in just a moment. Starting with the forwards, not just the headline of the forwards, Topsy, the headline of the whole squad, I think. Henry Pollock, what a story for that young man.
Oh, incredible. And of course, when it was announced, got the biggest cheer in the room, and rightly so. Look, he's played one Test match.
Scored off the bench.
Off the bench, scored twice in that Test match. But it's one of those, obviously, everyone talks about Bolters coming into Lions squad announcement, and off the back of that performance and what he started to do this year, you might have thought, yeah, there's potential. But when it got to this week, he almost made it undeniable that you couldn't pick him because of how good his form has been, topped off by the performance in the Champions Cup semi-final away to Leinster/Ireland last weekend. You do that on the big stage, people take notice. And actually, of all the, I mean, there's some amazing back rows in this squad, but of current form, he is up there, probably playing the best out of all of them currently.
And Macca, that's the thing I love about this, because you don't pick a Lions squad to be ready for a World Cup in a few years, or even to be ready in kind of 6 months' time. It's about here and now. He is there on merit, on form.
By the way, he could start the first Test
I agree.
because there's no number 8s. Henry Pollock could do a job at number 8, so could Ben Earl, but Henry Pollock to be from nowhere to starting in a Test. I mean, it's an incredible story. 21 forwards named, but yeah, we're talking about one of them at the moment because his story is just absolutely insane. And you know what? I believe this in any sport. If you're going to get picked or called up for the first time for your international side, you want to do it when you're playing well. Boy, is he playing well at the moment. I mean, you just ride his coattails at the moment. I've seen a video of the Saints players all sitting together watching, and when the announcement of his name came on, massive pile-on, beating the living whatever out of him. Yeah, they were just going to enjoy that. So yeah, everyone knows the story.
And Topsy, you mentioned that he only recently made his England debut in the Six Nations, at the end of the Six Nations. Earlier on in the Six Nations, he was playing in the under-20 Six Nations.
That jumped into my head as well. So it tells you everything about that transition, from under-20s to senior international to Lion, all in the space of a couple of months. It's exceptional, but it's completely warranted. And nobody can say that he shouldn't be in that squad. It would actually have been a surprise if he wasn't. And that's testament to everything that Henry's done in this short period of time, in his first full season in professional rugby as well. So hats off to him.
Yeah, brilliant story. Headlines from the backs, I think not quite as obvious. What I've got written down here is Marcus Smith included, Owen Farrell not included. Should we talk about Marcus Smith first of all? I didn't think he would be included just because he hasn't necessarily had his best form for Harlequins, and he was playing out of position for England in the Six Nations, so I don't think we necessarily saw the best of him. Macca, what do you think the coaches have seen for why he's there?
It's interesting because I had him in
on
the grounds that he can play 15.
Yeah, so the versatility.
And it was interesting talking to Danny Wilson, his head coach at Harlequins this week. And again, Danny said, absolutely. He believes Marcus has proved he can play fullback and he can play 10. On a Lions talk, you need guys who can do more than one thing. So I always felt fairly confident for Marcus that he had a decent chance. It was then how many, because you've got Blair Kinghorn, who can also slot in at 10 and do it. So it's all about adding up the numbers. But from Marcus's point of view, yeah, I think there'll be a bit of relief about it because I think we all know he wants to play 10, but he can play 15 if you need him to.
And you're right on that point, actually. The 15 shirt was almost forced upon him because of what was happening with England and Finn Smith, and him being able to prove himself in that position might have actually got himself a seat on the plane, because, I mean, if we look at the 10s that have been picked, he's probably not choice 1 and 2. So then it's about, right, if you're not the starter, give me a reason to get you into the squad. And actually then you're looking at flexibility. So the likes of Marcus, the likes of Elliot Daly, who can cover a number of positions, you say, okay, I can get myself in the squad based on that flexibility, but I'm still a proven Test player in my preferred position. We know Marcus wants to play 10. He's got himself a seat on the plane. Now it's about form, fitness, and opportunity. He was in the middle of an international, when he got called up the last time. So he knows things can happen very, very quickly.
The other thing is, let's be brutally honest about this. We all know Finn Russell is the starting 10 if the first test is tomorrow.
Well, don't tell Saints fans.
But if he tweaks something this evening, getting in the lift to go to dinner, Marcus Smith is the nearest thing you've got to Finn Russell. Therefore, you don't have to change the game plan. Marcus, just drop in, play that. Finn Smith, it would slightly change. He can do. So actually, I mean, and I've actually said this about England, I've never quite understood why they've not used Ben Spencer as scrum half with England with Marcus Smith, because if Ben Spencer can get the best out of Finn Russell,
yeah.
Why can't he do the same with Marcus Smith? So anyway, to go back to the point, therefore, if you've got Finn Russell as your number one starting 10 in a test match, to me, Marcus Smith is the backup, and then Finn Smith is your point of difference. So that was another of the reasons I thought that Marcus had a decent chance of making it.
It's interesting. I didn't have Marcus there for kind of the reasons I outlined. I can imagine as well that as a group of coaches, when you sit down and you look at what Marcus Smith has the potential to bring, you almost can't leave him at home. You're like, we have to have that guy. Let's see if he works his way into the test team. But he brings such a unique skill set that maybe the other fly halves don't. I get what you're saying, Macca, in terms of he's closer to Finn Russell, but there's still something unique about Marcus, that he just brings something that you want in your squad, and you work all the rest out later. Macca, the breakdown of any Lions squad is always quite interesting. We expected it to be Irish heavy. That is the case. England, in terms of representation, not far off either, though.
Yeah, it was actually pretty close in the end. 15 Irishmen, 13 Englishmen, 8 Scots and 2 Welsh. What we have to point out is that of the 15 Irish, 12 come from Leinster, which we believe is the biggest representation from one club ever on a Lions tour, but it gives you an idea of where Leinster are. You know, the joke is you don't play Leinster, you play Ireland, because it's basically one and the same thing. So yeah, it's an interesting breakdown. I did wonder if it might be a little bit more Irish dominant than that, but to give you an idea of comparison, so 12 years ago when we went to Australia, it was a squad of 37 then, 15 Welshmen, 10 English, 9 Irish, 3 Scots, and then in 2017 to New Zealand, 16 Englishmen, 12 Welsh, 11 Irish, 2 Scots. So it's around about the norm, if you like.
Topsy, let's speak about the Welsh contingent. We didn't expect that many. Jack Morgan and Thomas Williams, I think, were the ones that most people would have had in their sides. I had it, Dowie Lake and Blair Murray actually as a bolter as well. But anyway, we're kind of where we suspected we would be. And you can understand it because Wales have picked up a couple of wooden spoons in the last few Six Nations. They haven't been playing well. I think it is significant when you think of Lions legends. More often than not, you think of Welshmen. The Welsh have populated Lions squads regularly over the years, including recent history as well, with the kind of Warburton, Alan Wynne-Jones generation. I don't think it's a surprise. I think it's done on form. I don't think there's too many that should be there, but it is significant, isn't it, that there are so few Welsh in a Lions squad? Yeah,
it is. And look, it's no surprise to anyone, really. You'd have been talking anywhere from maybe 2 to a maximum of 4 or 5, realistically, based on form, who warranted a place in this squad. And, that's testament to the other nations in terms of the improvements they've made and also how far Wales have fallen. So, the onus is on Welsh rugby when we come to the next tour in 4 years' time to get that number back up to double figures. These things come in cycles, as England's representation has stayed where it is and Ireland has probably crept up, Scotland has wavered a bit. So it's on the other nations to compete, to invest, to grow, to develop. Everything from grassroots right the way through the whole pathway. This isn't something that has landed on Wales' doorsteps recently. It's been probably 5 to 10 years in the making. And those guys you spoke about, your Alan Wynne-Jones, your Sam Warburtons, your Jamie Roberts, that generation of exceptional player, the gap from them to the next guys coming through was too big. So all those caps that have been lost pre and post World Cup 23, Wales are now having to rebuild, and it's going to take them time.
I'll chuck in the name of Nicky Smith. I don't think he would have been too far away. Loose head prop contention, so he might be one of those on standby. I mean, he's been an absolute Iron Man this year. This weekend for Leicester against Sale in the Premiership will be his 20th appearance for Leicester this season. Bearing in mind that he's also done the autumn and the Six Nations, he's been an absolute Iron Man and has been brilliant. So don't be too surprised if he's too far away.
And speaking of actually players on standby, Macca, as we understand it, I believe Andy Farrell has said in his press conference that there are a couple of spots available for players to prove their fitness. So it's a squad of 38 at the moment, a couple of spots available to take it up to 40.
So officially, I managed to grab a word with Ben Calverley and Ian Evans, who are the CEO and tour manager respectively. There's not officially 2 spots still available, but what they'll do is they'll monitor the situation and react accordingly. So if someone does come through, proves fitness, and it's an area they feel they need to strengthen, then they have that ability to add a couple more names should they need or want to.
Okay, and we often see players added to any Lions squad. They always add to the original squad. Topsy, we've got to speak about Owen Farrell, I think, in this discussion. Not selected. Again, I don't think too surprising. He's had injuries and form this year. Do you still think there's a potential place for Owen Farrell on this Lions tour?
Yeah, there is. And look, he'll be part of a short list of players now who kind of, those guys on standby who might be waiting for a phone call. It could be an injury, could be fitness issues. Owen Farrell wasn't playing as well as the other fly halves ahead of him that he's competing with. He's also had injury issues as well, and last weekend in the Challenge Cup semi-final, he went off injured with a HIA. So any kind of last opportunity to prove himself went out the window. Look, he's got some stellar competition, but he's a test match winner, he's a Lion, he's a 100-cap England international, and he's Andy's son. So you throw all that into the mix. He's got proven test pedigree that if needed, an injury to a 10, an injury to a 12, you can fly him out and you know exactly what you're going to get and that he will deliver. So he's part of that group now. And it's the unfortunate thing that comes with Lions tours. We know that there will probably be 1, 2, maybe 3 injuries or disruptions to the tour between now and the time the players get out there, and even while they're out there as well. So for those guys, you stay fit, you stay ready. You hope that you're on a tour that's not too far away so that you can be the closest guy to get there as well, because these things matters, you know. I mean, we can joke about it, but I think there's stories of you're on holiday in the right place at the right time. Oh, you're only an hour away. Come on board.
So we'll be back in just a moment, but earlier the Lions head coach Andy Farrell and the newly appointed captain Maro Itoje, they spoke to talkSPORT to give their reaction to Paul Hawksbee, Charlie Baker and Ben Kay.
It's Paul Hawksbee and Charlie Baker live from the O2. We've just had the British and Irish Lions squad announcement this afternoon. We're delighted to say we are joined by coach Andy Farrell and the skipper Maro Itoje. Good afternoon, guys.
Welcome. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Maro, congratulations. We should start with that.
Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you. I'm extremely humbled and privileged to be here, and I just can't wait to get going.
How and when did you find out?
So I found out Tuesday afternoon around 3:34ish. And Andy delivered the good news. It was
in a really bad way, by the way.
Come on, talk us through it.
Talk about an anticlimax. It was shocking. So you tried to do the right thing by finding out his schedule for the day, because obviously he's at training, which he's not today, by the way, Bennett. You would never have missed training, Bennett. You would never have missed.
I never would have been picked as Lions captain either.
Well, that's true. Well, I phoned up Matt McCall, his coach at Saracens, and asked him the schedule and would he be allowed to take the day off, etc. And I wanted to find out when he'd finished training, because I think it's nice not to be around the fellas, you know, have a bit of time to yourself to take it in and reflect, etc. So I knew that was going to be around 3 o'clock, and I was at the airport at 3 o'clock, and I phoned him, and he saw the Irish number. He's not got many Irish friends, so he must have got suspicious. And then I said, Maro, Andy Farrell here. He went, oh, how you doing, Andy?
That's a very good impression.
Yeah, that's uncanny.
Wiganish, wasn't it?
It's like he's in the room.
And then the phone was breaking up. So I couldn't ask him the question. I actually went, just a minute, and put the phone down. And I had to ring him back again. So I think he knew what was coming after that the second time round, but a bit of an anticlimax.
It didn't leak. That's the amazing thing. You've managed to keep it quiet, Maro. So have you, Andy, because around squad announcements, you normally get a whisper. There were really no whispers about this.
No, and that's how it should be.
Sure,
I think the key to that is, you know, we have discussions, but don't make your mind up until you really have to, you know what I mean? So we obviously narrow it down, and I played devil's advocate on absolutely everything, and get to the point when it has to be made, and that's how we keep it under wraps.
Maro, what was the first team you were ever captain of as a little boy?
Oh wow, I don't actually know. The first team, probably like a Wembley rules football team or something like that. I'm no good at football, by the way, so the team wasn't very good.
Yeah.
But probably one of the academy teams, probably, or the 8th grade team, something like that.
School, St George's?
School, yeah, probably school.
Yeah.
School teams.
Andy, you mentioned keeping it quiet and not telling anyone. One of the challenges, particularly for you, but I guess for everyone within that's not been picked, you don't tip anyone off that they're not going to be, because sometimes in an international week, if you're not going to be involved, the coach will ring you just so it's not a shock. But you can't really do that in this situation,
well,
can you?
You've just said this is the first time we've done this, an NFL draft-like, and it really spoils the whole purpose, doesn't it, if you leak stuff out. So again, we met yesterday, and everyone thinks they know until you thrash it out properly when it really matters, because you're on a deadline.
Tell me it was like, when on X Factor when Simon Cowell puts all the pictures out. Was it like that?
It definitely wasn't like that. But we had a bit of a joke when we got to the point, because all the media guys, the comms guys, were egging us on to get it done sooner rather than later, so they can do all the images, etc. And we brought them in and said, right, we're ready, and we had 1 or 2 ringers from back in your day on the squad, you know what I mean? And they were going, surely this is not right. But anyway, we got there eventually.
Will you be leaning on the expertise of other previous captains? I know there was a bit of a get-together, wasn't there, last night? We saw some footage of it on our screens. That must have been a real buzz for you. So many great players. Yeah,
it was a really special occasion for myself. I had the pleasure of breaking bread with absolute icons of the game: Gavin Hastings, Martin Johnson, Brian O'Driscoll, Paul O'Connor, Alan Jones, Sam Wilson.
Who paid? Who picked up the tab? Was it?
Andy did.
Oh, okay, great.
I actually did.
Just starters.
There's a receipt going in.
Yeah, that must have been fantastic experience.
No, it was amazing, and I think that's one of the special parts of the Lions, that you feel like you're part of a brotherhood, whether you go on one tour, you get picked in the squad, or whether you captain it. As soon as you're part of it, you're part of it.
And you seem to have a kind of balance of players with great reputations and lots of experience, and some great young players as well. There was a lot of excitement in the room earlier on, wasn't there, when Henry Pollock's name was announced? That's an exciting call.
You can see why everyone wants to see a fantastic story, don't they, of a youngster backing himself, and when it really matters, week on week. So he thoroughly deserves his selection there, and I'm super excited to get to work with him.
Is it about getting a mix between, because obviously there are players, and it always happens within a Lions cycle or a World Cup cycle, that certain players just hit form at the right time. And I know Pollock's slightly different because he's just burst onto the scene, but sometimes when someone's got that much confidence at that specific part of their career, it just lifts everyone else around them. How much is it about getting the experience right, but also getting some of those players that are properly on form at the moment?
Yeah, you heard me say on stage there that it's about competition for places and getting the right personnel to be able to do that. And you want people that's not afraid of putting the best foot forward and showing everyone what it's about, because ultimately what touring's all about on a Lions tour is gaining respects from your peers, and this is the best of the best. So gaining respect as far as that's concerned, they'll be challenging each other right from the start, so it's going to be interesting to
Did you and the coaching staff that you've got, when you sat down for that last meeting, do you pick a squad for a specific game plan you've got in mind about how to beat the Wallabies, or do you pick the squad and then choose your game plan because of what those guys can do?
A bit of everything thrown in together. I mean, you make a schedule first and foremost and actually go, who can make this come alive and work? Who can deal with this? Because it's like no other, as we know. It comes thick and fast, the games. There are 26 lads on the team selected there that this is their first time touring. And there's 9 of them also. So if that's 9 of them, it's the second tour, the last one being the South African tour, which was
different?
A completely different tour, wasn't it? So that leaves three. That leaves three who's been there and done that a few times. You know, so there's a freshness about it, which is exciting. There are some experienced players that have been around and done that, obviously. But we've got work to do. We've got to gel together as soon as we possibly can and hit the ground running.
And there's still a season to finish in this country and in France as well.
Well, I wanted to pick up on that because
what happens now?
That's right. Blair Kinghorn's in, and Toulouse look like they're going to make the playoffs. So I take it he'll be joining the tour later.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you know, when they get through to the final, people would expect them to do that, Benny, wouldn't they? And you know, but he'll be joining the squad when they either get knocked out in the playoffs or just after the final.
Did you watch the season now through your fingers?
Do you know what?
And how is it playing now? Now you've got a big summer ahead.
Honestly, you just have to rip in.
Sure.
You just have to rip in. You've been in positions like this, whether it's a Lions tour or whether it's a World Cup, and you know selection's getting close, and you want to get on the plane, but you just have to rip in. You can't worry about whether you're going to get this or get that or this happens. You have to rip in, get your best foot forward. Because if you don't, I think you increase the chance of injury, and two, you probably undercook yourself for the tour.
People would think it were remiss if we didn't ask about your son Owen. There was a feeling that he could be in the squad. He hasn't made it, but he was in the. I'm sure he was in the mix, but he just hasn't made the final cut.
Like a good few players, still trying to find a way back to full fitness, getting there, as are many others as well. As we know, we just talked about the 6 weeks until or so until we leave. The sure as eggs is eggs. There's plenty. There's plenty that's going to go on in those 6 weeks, and and also we've selected a 38-man squad, which gives us an option to leave a few places open if and when needed, like etc. So there are a few people that we're
You're right. There is quite a long injury list, isn't there? Of players that maybe not fully injured but carrying something or just coming back. You know,
trying to find a way. So
that the door's potentially open for those guys.
There's a bit of wiggle room if it's needed, etc. You know, I mean, it's difficult enough shaping the Argentina game, but it's a blessing as well at the same time, because the Argentinian game is played in and around when the URC final and the Premiership final. So we're going to be missing some guys from that. So other guys are going to have to come in and fill in. So that's going to be interesting to see how people react to that and perform.
Maro, your third Lions tour. You've only just become England captain this year, so did it feel like a long time coming, this, or has it all sort of happened very fast for you?
No, it's happened very fast. I've had numerous conversations in and around leadership of late and of recent times, and I've probably played rugby professionally 12 years, and probably within the last year, 18 months, is all the leadership captaincy roles have come. So it's a massive honour, it's a massive privilege, and it's just incredibly exciting. So when we're out there listening to the squad announcement, it was my first time hearing the squad as well. I didn't get a heads up, so I was trying to keep my reactions like, oh, amazing, cool. So no, it's all very exciting.
Do you think it's a different role to the England role, for example, as a captain? Because you've obviously seen Sam Warburton and Alan Wynne-Jones and how they do it. Now you'll want to do it your own way, but you might have spoken to them last night about it, but is it slightly different doing it as a Lions captain? Yeah,
I think it's a different dynamic, and I think it's because by its very nature it's more diverse. So you have to pull in and lean on other people from different nations and really align, you know. Within England, within Wales, within Ireland, whichever country, there's a certain amount of diversity, but it's to a point, whereas this is even wider. But the great thing about the Lions is that everyone wants to be involved. Everyone is desperate. Every single one of the 38 people named want to be here, and to have a squad with that mindset is a big help in of itself.
And I'm sure you've given this some thought. I mean, it's hard to win a Lions tour. It's always been hard. So what do you think it takes to achieve that, Maro?
Well, it takes collective buy-in. You need the whole squad. So you just don't need a 20. You can't win it alone with a 23. You need the whole squad, and you need the backroom staff all pushing in the same direction. We need to buy in. We need to commit. We need to socialise. We need to leave some of our egos at the door. Leave it on the floor. Because every single person in that squad is used to being the man, and people are going to have to play certain roles to make it work. So we need to be selfless.
Sorry, Ben, carry on.
Sorry, the other thing, and this is a big thing for you, Andy, is these are guys that you're post-tour going to be playing against in 6 months' time.
Sure.
But in order for this to be successful, you have to divulge everything. You have to say, look, this is how we play against, for an Englishman, this is how we play against you for Ireland, and this is, and then think that in 6 months' time we can just come up with new stuff. But there's no hiding it because you're an English person. You want to keep it all to England and things. So how do you go about making sure that everyone just gives all their IP to give you the best chance of beating Australia?
Well, in my experience on the 2 tours that I've been on, that just naturally happens, because when you get the best of the best, there's already that respect anyway. So they are constantly talking to each other. How do you do this? How do you go about your week? How do you do? What's your plan like going into a training session on a Wednesday, etc. So it naturally comes out, because they're in this position for a reason in the first place, because they care. They care about being as good as they possibly can be. So they'll use this as an avenue to get better as well. So it naturally just flows. But on top of that, when you're pulling together and there's an inner circle and you're circling the wagons, and you're getting all the flack from Australia, etc. You know it's coming. It's you against them. The people in the room now, it's you against them, and at the heart of that has to be. It's just about the team. Nothing else matters. Just about the team. It always has to be the best teammate that you possibly can be.
Finally, Andy, very quick rugby league question. Christian Wade's heading off to your old club Wigan for a spell. Any advice for him?
I was super excited. I was watching that live when Wigan put it on Sky there. So I was super excited. It actually makes a lot of sense for me. He's suited to the game, and he'll rip in. He's got some good people there who's definitely going to help him, and what a fantastic club to go and do it.
Andy Farrell and Maro Itoje speaking to talkSPORT earlier on today. We'll be back in just a moment when Will Kelleher from The Times is going to join us. Welcome back to talkSPORT Rugby here at the O2 following the British and Irish Lions squad announcement. I'm delighted to say that Will Kelleher, the Deputy Rugby Correspondent for The Times, has joined myself, Alfie Reynolds, Andrew McKenna and Topsy Ojo. Will, nice to see you. How are you?
Hello, this is all quite fun, isn't it? Lions squad announcement day. It's like Christmas, as someone said to me as I walked in.
As Macca said at the top of the show as well. So we're all quite on brand, aren't we, amongst the rugby media? But it's been a big day, Will. Very different to what we've had for previous tours. A live audience. It's all felt like a bit more of an event, maybe?
Yeah, it has. It maybe didn't quite have the razzmatazz of a NFL draft, which is kind of the inspiration they took for this event. But it was really cool, actually, to hear the live reactions to the selections, like particularly Henry Pollock. Got a massive cheer, didn't he? And I designed some sort of alphabetical spreadsheet so I could work out who hadn't been picked. And so we didn't get guys like Owen Farrell, for example, so we knew he'd gone beyond F. But yeah, when the P came up and it was Henry Pollock, the place went mad, didn't it? We got a bit of shoe for Pierre Schumann.
One of the producers at talkSPORT did say, "Why are they booing?" I was like, no, it's okay, it's fine. We're all good.
It's like the Joe Root, isn't it? The Root.
Exactly. We were talking just before the break about the potential for players to join the squad. We were talking about a guy you just mentioned, Owen Farrell, who hasn't been selected. I said that I was going to throw another name at you here, fellas. Emmanuel Faye-Waboso. Not in this squad. We haven't seen him for ages. He missed the Six Nations. He picked up an injury. I just wonder whether he is one of those players that Andy Farrell and those coaches are going to want to give as much time as possible to get fit. Because I look at the wingers that they have selected, and you've got James Lowe and Mac Hansen and Duhan van der Merwe, Tommy Freeman, Elliot Daly possibly is a bit of a versatile one. There's not out-and-out pace there, particularly because Darcy Graham hasn't been selected. I think there's a chance we see Emmanuel Faye-Waboso on this tour. Am I mad, Macca?
Well, first of all, Mac Hansen's out for 5 weeks. Connacht have announced that. Faye Waboso hasn't played for weeks and weeks, so there is potential for this squad to actually be reshaped. I'll be honest, I thought it would be Faye Waboso or Darcy Graham, because for me they're kind of similar. So I was surprised not one of them got in. So yeah, I suppose that there has to be that thing. My biggest concern for Faye Waboso would be, yeah, he's got to get back fit, but he's going back into an Exeter side who are just devoid of confidence. How does he get his game and prove himself? I mean, he's almost going to have to take on the Premiership on his own.
The reason I say I think he could be included is partly the lack of gas. Topsy, I'll come to you here as the former winger amongst us. I just think he has something different that no other winger has. None of the wingers that have been selected are capable of bringing to the tour. And I think if there's a chance that you could get him in there, it's a skill set that the coach is going to want. But what do you reckon?
I think it's going to be very difficult for him because you're right. He is a player that can do things differently. His ability to break tackles, his power out of the contact, and then, of course, his out-and-out speed. But given the competition he has, speaking about the guys that have not missed out, a Darcy Graham would probably be ahead of him now just based on form and fitness. I mean, as you were saying, players are injured. Blair Kinghorn's currently carrying an injury as well, so there's moving parts with that. I just think he's got a lot of work to do, not only to get himself fit, but then to form that warrants him being ahead of Darcy to come and join the tour, and as well as the other players that are there. You mentioned an Elliot Daly, who is a test lion on the wing as well. So there is so much competition that he would have probably needed to have been doing what Henry Pollock has done now, continuing off the back of his great year last year to say, yes, I should be in that team. So I think it's going to be tough for him, maybe easier for a few others.
So I think the admin on it, I suppose, is that Faye Waboso has been injured since, I think it was a day after his 22nd birthday in December. So he's had a hell of a long time out. And he's likely only to play the final round of the Premiership season. Look, Chiefs, as Mac has said, have been really struggling. So they're not going to make the playoffs. So their final game of the season is the very end of May. And that's against Sale Sharks, ironically the team that he got injured against to start with. So he's going to have one Premiership game maximum to prove his ability to go on any tour. You'd expect that Steve Borthwick would want him on the England tour to Argentina and the US. And look, we saw it in this tour in 2013, where England went to Argentina and loads of people got called up. Brad Barrett, Billy Twelvetrees, Christian Wade. Like, there will be people who are on the international summer tours, the home union tours, who will go. And I agree with you, Alfie. Like, that's a backline that's lots of jacks of all trades, I think. But without anyone who can go, he is going to completely blow a game apart.
Oh, sorry, just on that whole tour point, we're talking about Owen Farrell. Owen Farrell won't be going on that tour because he's not available for England.
Yeah.
So he's actually...
Nor Jack Willis or someone like that.
And so, therefore, once his season is done with Racing, which, by the way, is going to be very soon because they're out with the washing...
4 rounds left, I think, top 14.
He's going to be doing nothing. George Ford. Potentially.
Any conversation with Owen, George always kind of gets pushed to George is the man. He is absolute class. Sale are in brilliant form and are a shoo-in almost for the playoffs and to kick on. I mean, who's to say that George doesn't finish this season with the Premiership Winners' Medal, goes on tour, gets his 100th cap, and then finds himself in Australia? Again, talking about players and who's next cab off the rank, I mean, I thought George was kind of in a tie-in with Marcus and Sam Prendergast and others to have that third 10 spot, but yeah, man, get George out there. I mean, I think he's brilliant.
Oh, I'm with you there, by the way, Topsy. I think George Ford is brilliant. I had him in my squad, but there's just so many good fly-halves to select,
there is.
there?
The interesting thing that Andy Farrell said to us in the writers' briefing is that Marcus Smith wasn't actually competing with the other 10s necessarily. He was there because he can play 15 as well. So that got him on the plane, it seems. So George Ford, I totally agree, would be an amazing shout. And possibly, look, Owen Farrell's had a really difficult season. Racing have been very poor. There was a point in the season where it looked like they might even get relegated. Stuart Lancaster was their coach. He's been sacked and moved on and everything else. And he's struggled with injuries in his adductor and his knee. And he was playing 12 on the weekend in the Challenge Cup semi-final against Lyon and got concussed. So he's just had a horrible season. But I think you'd get short odds on him ending up on that tour at some point. Like, remember, the tests are late July and early August. We've got a long time to go.
Well, exactly. I mean, Ben Kay made the point on talkSPORT this afternoon. If you needed someone to fly out at 24 hours' notice, be parachuted into a test match squad and walk in and go, all right, lads, it's going to be fine. It's Owen Farrell.
Knows Johnny Sexton as well, inside out. They were the 10-12 in 2017.
Yeah.
That was a not bad tour, was it?
Lads, just to shift gear for just a second, shocks are always a big part of any Lions selection. Is there one name for any of you in particular that you're like, oh, well, I have him in my team, I was expecting him to be selected?
Jack Willis was very strongly in my thinking, but the problem for him was the French season doesn't end till 3 games into the tour. Very interestingly, that only one French-based player has been picked. That is Blair Kinghorn. So for me, and potentially Jamie George.
Yeah, Jamie George would have been my one.
I feel really bad for Jamie George. Like,
what a few months he's had.
Yeah, and I think he took on England captaincy a really difficult time where the team weren't performing. He had to do a whole lot of kind of knitting back together the relationship between the fans and the team, and he did an exceptional job at that, but the team weren't winning very much. He lost the captaincy, which was a real shock to him before the Six Nations. He found out at very last minute, and Maro Itoje was given it by Steve Borthwick. And I've heard since that he's devastated, and of course he would be, like he's a 2-time Lion. I think in terms of the media operation, we'd love him to be there because he's a fantastic bloke to deal with and incredibly engaging and quotable and a top-class player. Like, yeah, he was one where I thought my heart went out to him because I think he would have been a very good Lion. And again, look, we've seen lots of stories. Alex Corbisiero is another one we didn't mention on that Argentina guys in 2013. He was a hero of the Lions that scored a try in the winning Test match. So it may happen for him.
It's interesting that because I had Jamie George written down as well. I suspected that he might be one of the hookers that they went for. Just to go back to the Jack Willis thing. So Jack Willis not selected, playing for Toulouse. Blair Kinghorn is selected, playing for Toulouse. Why? Does this ultimately come down to the quality of options in the back row compared perhaps with what they have at fullback?
Yeah, to me, I think it's as straightforward as that. I mean, we've got a squad of 38. I think you could have picked 30 back rowers and still been going, oh, hang on, no, what about him? There is so much quality in the back row in British and Irish rugby at the moment. So therefore, if you're going, well, are we, aren't we? He's going to miss 3 games. There's only 10 on the entire tour. By the time he's got up to speed, because he won't be able to do the training bits and pieces, it has to have counted against him, because on form, you are 100% picking Jack Willis.
I love Pollock, though.
Like, yeah,
I'm sure you guys have talked about Pollock, but wow. He was in February, he was playing under-20s rugby. He's played 20 minutes of a Test match and scored 2 tries against a Wales team who were gone in Cardiff. George Ford put him into 2 lovely holes, a couple of tries. And he's just, like, can we think of another player? I know there have been players who've not played a Test match for their country before they have for the Lions, but he's got to be like the bolter of all bolters, hasn't he, Topsy? Like,
well, we were talking about this. Well, he almost went past the bolter and was like, no, he's in now.
Yeah.
Like, I think, up until this week, when after the Leinster game, it was like, right, you can't not take him. He is there justifiably on form, on everything he's done since being captain in his first year. You were saying, I mean, how do you go from under-20s to the Lion squad in the space of 4 months?
Awesome.
I mean, it's incredible, but it's completely on merit. Like, you can't argue that he shouldn't be in it. It's completely deserved. Fair play to him. And his highlights reel already, it's just moments to sit back and enjoy and say he is a quality player who is only young, is going to get better. Walking into this environment surrounded by some of the best in the world, like, the sky's the limit for this kid. And yeah, I mean, he'd be fighting for a Test spot, absolutely.
Another position that I just want to mention, we don't have too much longer, but is second row. Will, when we were selecting our squad the other week, and I think we said, well, Maro Itoje is going to go. You have Ollie Chesham, you have Ty Byrne, who could be a 6, but we included him in the second rows. And then we were looking at it and thinking, there's options, but we weren't too enamoured with a lot of those. We've got Joe McCarthy, Scott Cummings, which I think is a bit of a surprise for a lot of people. He's been injured. And James Ryan as well. Personally, they've gone with more second rows than I was expecting them to.
And like specialist locks as well.
4 specialist locks. I mean, it looks like Chesham and Byrne will be doing 4 and 6. But
Tom Curry, I guess, at 6 as well.
Yeah.
But he's not a guy who could step forward and be a lock.
Because the thing, I'm sure a lot of people will have heard this, but there's a difference between playing 4 and 5. There's a different requirement from a loose headlock and a tight headlock. So you don't just simply say, right, I need 4 second rows, bang, 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 bang. Actually, you need to work it. There was a really good piece, I think Charlie Morgan did it in the Telegraph a few weeks ago, and said they picked an England game, and it was right, on this particular scrum with these two players on the pitch, he's the tight head lock, he's the loose head lock, and then with these two players on the pitch, Maro's gone from loose head over to... So you've got to get combinations, and I'm sure that's what John DL has been getting at with Andy Farrell.
Very, very quickly then, gents, we don't have ages to dissect this. This is going to be the quickest selection meeting ever. I'm going to run through the options. You're going to tell me right now, and I know it all changes, who's your starting Test team. So front row, we've got Tyg Furlong, Will Stewart, Pierre Schoeman, Andrew Porter, Ellis Genge, Xander Fagerson as the prop options. Who are we going for?
Porter,
Sheehan, Furlong.
Porter, Sheehan,
Furlong. I'll go Will Stewart over Furlong.
Okay.
Mackie, you get the deciding vote then.
Oh, don't do that to me.
No, come on, this is what we need.
Stewart to start, Furlong off the bench.
Okay, into the second row, we've got Maro Itoje already, so who's your second option at second row? Tyg Byrne possibly, Ollie Chesham, Scott Cummings, Joe McCarthy, James Ryan?
Chesham.
I could live with that.
We've gone for
Byrne
the English.
at 6, though, I'm going for, though.
Okay, into the back row, Byrne at 6, we've got him plenty of nods. Elsewhere, Jack Conan, Tom Curry, Ben Earl, Jack Morgan, Henry Pollock, Josh van der Fleer.
Just put all of those names in a hat and pick whatever you want, because it works however you're going to dish up that.
I'll do it. Byrne, Tom Curry, Conan at 8, Pollock bench.
Ooh, I'll go
because he can cover all of them.
Byrne, Tom Curry, Ben Earl at 8.
Earl, yeah, I forgot about him.
Too late.
And therein lies the problem.
And there is the problem. Rattle through the back line for me. Anyone not have Jameson, Gibson, Park as the 9?
No.
Finn at 10. Russell, sorry. There's two Finns.
Finn Russell at 10. Centres, Bundy Aki, Hugh Jones, Gary Ringrose, Sione Tuipulotu.
Huey Pilotu I'm going for.
Just going for the Scottish combination.
The cohesion crew.
Tuipulotu over Aki with no game time.
Yeah. I want... Tuipulotu's playing this weekend.
Yeah, okay.
He's back.
If fully fit, yes, but Bundy
otherwise,
Aki,
Bundy, yes.
Bundy. And then in the back three, James Lowe, Tommy Freeman, Elliot Daly, Matt Hansen, Duan van der Merwe, Hugo Keenan, Blair Kinghorn. What's your back three?
Freeman, right wing, Lowe, left wing, Keenan, full back, probably, but quite like a bit of Kinghorn, but let's see.
Yeah, that's exactly how
Same
I'm
wingers with Kinghorn.
Okay, well, Faye Waboso, when he does get brought into the squad, I'm going with Faye Waboso.
Team Manny.
Boys, wrap it up for us. What a day. What an event. Has it worked, Will? Do you think the whole concept of,
it took
doing
a
it in front of a live
little bit of time
audience?
to get going. Like, people who were watching it on Sky will have seen it come in at full, like, teeth out and everything, but it took a little bit of, like, microphones not working and a bit, not quite
got there in the end, though.
But got it in the end. I loved the fan interaction. That was cool, and getting some videos live from people like Ben Earl and Matt Hansen and Thomas Williams, and you could see what it really meant to them. So I've heard rumours that the next time they might do this, they might start it in the evening, which would be an absolute disaster for journalists who are trying to get pieces in the paper. So here's my 4-year-long plea: don't do that next time in 2029, please.
I'm sure we won't have too much sympathy there, but I think it's been a great day. We were chatting to fans as they were leaving. Some man in a full Lion outfit that he said he bought in, I think, 2001 or something. It's gone on every single Lions tour.
It's going to be right.
It's going to be there in Australia as well. Wow. He said he'll be all right in Melbourne, but up in Brisbane it might be a bit of a problem. But gentlemen, absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining me on this episode of talkSPORT Rugby, and we will keep you across and up to date of everything British and Irish Lions Tour 2025 across the talkSPORT network. Thank you very much for watching.